In this video, we will explore the insights of Ibn Arabi as he reflects on the nature of religion. Ibn Arabi draws a powerful distinction between two kinds of religion: religion according to God and religion according to the created beings. We'll focus on the former, that is, religion according to God. If you like this video, please like and share, and you can help me out monetarily via PayPal or Patreon. Thank you very much for your monetary support.
Ibn Arabi approaches his discussion of religion by grounding it in the Quran and the Arabic language. However, he does not attempt a comprehensive treatment of all scriptural references to religion or delve into the full range of their meanings. Instead, he selectively engages only those verses and their literal interpretations that align with the core of his philosophical framework. Rather than starting with a formal definition of religion, he jumps directly into the topic by presenting a dual classification: two distinct types of religion. This act of categorization assumes a shared attribute that justifies grouping them under the same concept. Thus, he introduces a division between religion in the sight of God and religion in the sight of the created beings. Quote, "Religion is divided into two kinds. First, religion according to al-Haq and according to whom al-Haq taught, and those who taught others what al-Haq taught them. Second, religion according to the created beings, which God acknowledges. God's religion is the one which God chose and granted it the highest degree above the human religion. God said, 'And Abraham enjoined the same upon his children, as did Jacob. O my children, God has chosen for you the religion, ad-dīn. So die not except in submission, muslimun, meaning obeying him.' The word ad-dīn is marked with the definite particle, aleph and lam, to designate a specific religion. Hence, this is a known religion, which is shown in God saying, 'The religion according to God is Islam,' meaning submission." Ibn Arabi interprets the definite article al in the term ad-dīn as indicating a specific, recognized category of religion. This definiteness implies that ad-dīn refers to a type of religion that is universally known and mentally acknowledged by all people. It is a religion whose meaning is shared across time, understood by Abraham and his descendants, by Jacob and his lineage, and by those being addressed in the Quranic verse. In addition, at its core, religion in this sense involves the submission of human beings. Here, it is important to note that Ibn Arabi begins with the concept of religion as it exists with God, but gradually moves toward the human experience of submission.
This shift raises a key question. If submission is fundamentally a human action, how can it represent religion as it exists with God? Perhaps in response to this tension, Ibn Arabi offers further clarification.
Quote, "Religion expresses your submission. That which comes from God is the law to which you submit. Religion means submission, and the rule is the law which God promulgated. Whoever is qualified as yielding to God's laws is the one who carries out the orders of the religion and maintains them, as one who performs the prayer. The servant is one who maintains religion, and al-Haq promulgates the laws. Hence, submission is the essence of your act, and religion comes out of your act." According to Ibn Arabi, the religion in the sight of God is essentially the divine law to which humans submit. When a person surrenders to this law, her act of submission becomes the way in which religion is given life and sustained. Thus, while God is the one who establishes religion through revelation, it is human action, specifically the act of submission, that actualizes and maintains it. Religion, therefore, manifests through human engagement. To fully understand this concept, it is important to examine how Ibn Arabi defines as-shar, since submission is best understood in relation to what is being submitted to. For him, law entails obligating a person to perform certain actions or to avoid others, all within the worldly realm. Hence, the law to which humans surrender comprises the divine commands and prohibitions, and religion only comes into being when individuals respond to these directives with obedience. However, Ibn Arabi also acknowledges that divine law is not entirely static. It can undergo additions and reductions through successive revelations, as in the case of Jesus modifying aspects of Moses' law. This raises a question. Can the same type of change apply to the law brought by Prophet Muhammad?
Ibn Arabi distinguishes between two aspects of Islamic law in this regard. He asserts that the content of the prophetic revelation delivered by the prophet is final and unchangeable, as the prophet marks the end of divine legislation and messengerhood.
However, changes may still occur in the sphere of Islamic jurisprudence developed through scholarly interpretation, not in the original revealed law itself. According to Ibn Arabi, although divine revelation has ended, God continues to guide the community through the interpretative efforts of scholars who derive legal rulings based on the foundational texts. These interpretations may vary and evolve, but they do not alter the core of the revealed law itself, which remains intact. In this sense, scholars function as the inheritors of the prophets, continuing the interpretive task within the bounds of divine intent. This raises a broader question. Why would God allow for changes in law or in the structure of commands and prohibitions he initially established? Ibn Arabi argues that such changes are necessitated by the evolving needs and circumstances of human societies. Since communities differ in their conditions, social structures, and historical contexts, the divine law adapts accordingly to meet their specific needs. Furthermore, Ibn Arabi suggests that the personality traits of the prophets themselves also influence the nature of the laws they bring. For instance, the severity of Jewish law may reflect the stern character of Moses, while the emphasis on mercy and love in Christian law aligns with the gentle disposition of Jesus. This psychological and contextual reading of prophetic law is a distinctive feature of Ibn Arabi's thought and deserves another closer examination. Ibn Arabi frames the evolution of divine law within the logic of his metaphysical system by suggesting that the revelation of law corresponds to the condition and merit of the community receiving it. In other words, God sends down law in proportion to what the community deserves and is capable of receiving. What God wills is ultimately grounded in his knowledge, and his decisions reflect what is presented to his knowledge by the reality of his creation. Thus, divine law is shaped by the totality of the community's condition as it is known by God. This same principle extends to the interpretations offered by scholars. Since they are aware of their community's needs, shifts in those needs naturally produce shifts in legal interpretation.
However, this should not be misunderstood as subordinating the ideal divine will to the actual human condition. Rather, Ibn Arabi sees the ideal as being actualized through the unfolding of human reality.
This view introduces a theological tension in Ibn Arabi's thought. On one side, he holds that legislative revelation concluded with the Prophet Muhammad. On the other, his metaphysical doctrine insists that God's self-manifestation, or tajalli, is ongoing and unceasing. To resolve this apparent contradiction, Ibn Arabi integrates the interpretative efforts of scholars, who inherit the prophetic role, as vehicles of continuing legislative tajalli. In this light, their juridical reasoning is not merely human effort, but a continuation of al-Haq's tajalli in legal form. Consequently, following the scholar's interpretations is, in essence, akin to obeying divine law, since their authority and insight stem from the same ontological source as prophetic revelation. Ibn Arabi views religion fundamentally as a human act of voluntary submission to God. In this dynamic, God's role is to prescribe the law, a comprehensive guidance addressing the social, moral, spiritual, and intellectual dimensions of human life, while the human being's role is to submit to that law. This submission is not merely passive compliance, but an active, intentional engagement with divine will. When scholars enter the scene by interpreting the revealed law, the legal framework itself takes on an additional human dimension, shaped through ijtihad, independent reasoning, and contextual understanding. In this way, the divine law remains living and responsive, continuously mediated by human intellect and moral responsibility. Moreover, Ibn Arabi's interpretation of the term ad-dīn as submission highlights the significance of free will and self-determination in religious life. Submission, in this context, is not something forced or externally imposed. It is a conscious, volitional act. No external compulsion drives it. Rather, it is a gesture rooted in the freedom and agency of the individual. Ibn Arabi affirms that human beings mirror divine qualities, especially the attribute of freedom, since they are created in God's image. This ontological dignity of the human being places the act of submission at the core of spiritual authenticity, rather than at the margins of obedience. Taken together, Ibn Arabi's vision of religion in the sight of God challenges rigid and authoritarian models of religiosity.
The religion for him is not a set of imposed rules to be followed blindly, but a dynamic interplay between divine guidance and human agency. It is in the creative space between divine revelation and human understanding that religion truly comes alive. Thank you so much for watching. My special thanks goes to Shan Wang. Thanks a lot. See you next time.